If you're a parent, you know what it's like to be short on time in the studio during the summer holidays. So in this video, I'm taking you through the artworks I managed to complete with 1 or 2 marks every day in my garden studio over the summer. Plus, at the end of the video, I'll show you my easy way to present works on paper ready to show and sell. If you don't know me, my name is Ruth. I'm an artist, a printmaker, a teacher, and I help artists to deepen their practice through hand printing at home. I make videos in my tiny studio in Bristol, UK. Welcome to the studio. So you'll probably be familiar with the plan whereby you sneak off during summer holidays, get away from childcare and spend loads of time in the studio, right? Never quite works out like that, does it? So I wrote a blog recently about how to stay creative even when you haven't got much time or much capacity. So I'll link that in the description, and I also wrote a video about it as well, which I will link in this one. So I thought I'd take a bit of my own medicine and try to keep motivated and creative, even when I only had a few minutes a day. So I'm going to show you how each piece was built up slowly with single marks, just a piece of collage here or there, maybe one layer of colour, and how that's added to the piece and finished the piece, basically, completed it. So what it means in practice is me saving half-done pieces ready for the summer, and I sort of start collecting those, you know, a month or two before, and also rediscovering older prints that I've put aside, not seen for a while. And I know I can improve them and add 1 or 2 marks that will hopefully complete them. So I put all of those aside in a big pile. I don't really touch them until I've got this kind of low capacity time in the summer. So 2 things really work in my favour. I'm really lucky to have this studio, which is literally about 10 seconds walk from my back door. It is tiny, but it's mine, and I can come out to it anytime I like. And the other thing is that in the Northern Hemisphere, we have these really lovely long summer evenings as well. So I could come out sort of in the evening and have, you know, maybe an hour if I was lucky, but most of the time it might just be sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. So that was really helpful. So just going on to the ones where I did make some marks, and most of these are sort of 1 or 2 things that I've added that have just brought the piece alive, really. So this one was a Tetra Pak dry point, and it was just this black print here. And I've added in yellow collage, red collage, and then just these dark marks to make some tonal contrast here. And very soft colour, really, but just bringing everything up a little bit. I loved the darkness and the scratchiness of the dry point, but I just needed something extra. I needed a bit of tonal contrast down here in the corner, and then some drawn marks as well. And actually you'll see this red collage paper has some kind of drawn marks in it as well. So if it's missing something, like a drawn mark or a block of colour or a different colour or a bright colour or something like that, then that's what needs adding. And a lot of this is actually just spending time looking at each piece, what's there, what isn't there, what's needed. This started off as this summer anyway, as this area here is a photopolymer print, and then the bottom is was kind of worked over with oil paint. This was here, I think, this sort of soft blue colour. So I added in this bright orange. It just needed something to really zing out because it was just kind of boring, really. So I've added this bright orange as a very painterly monoprint mark. This sun was stamped in with a stamp, and then drawing onto the back of the paper to create this bright blue. So I've just basically added really bright colour, but I've also added defined shape as well because I didn't have any definition in this at all. And then I drew in just adding this little island shape here very subtly because I already had the brightness and the definition. I didn't need much more after that. And again, very similar here. I think this was actually from the same plate. So these lovely soft drifty marks here are actually a photopolymer etching. That's pretty much all there was. I think this, again, this soft colour was here, but I've basically added in this big dark block of collage, and that really suddenly makes a really massive difference. Tonal contrast, lovely texture here around the edges, a definite mark down the side, or a definite line down the side, and then adding in this bright orange to contrast with it. So orange is the complementary colour of blue, and that should make everything sing and jump off the page a little bit more. And then all I did was add a tiny bit of pencil mark here to the island shape and some little birds here. I'm not sure if you can see that. Just bring that up to the camera as well. So Very small, subtle marks towards the end. But these were all done mark by mark. I didn't really spend like whole chunks of time on each piece. So this one, this is part of a series actually. Now, what did I add to this? This was here. Most of this was here. Really, all I added was this area down at the bottom. So we've got this dark collage, a bright red collage, and that's to kind of contrast with this blue here, this lovely ultramarine blue, which I love. But to make it sing even more, add the complementary colour, or a complementary colour. And again, this monoprint line was done by pressing onto the back of the paper with something, and it's a kind of orangey yellow, again to pick up on the blue and make everything sing a little bit more. And this was in the same series, so originally came out of the press with this kind of hillside, and the fields is a dry point. So I had that lovely line work in the background. It's basically been covered up a lot. I think this area was already there when I came to this in the summer, and also quite a lot of this here as well, but it still wasn't working for me. And again, when I'm not quite sure what to do, I often add this block of darkness. Tonal contrast basically really makes a difference. And then adding in this quite energetic orange line, again to complement the blue up here in the sky. There's a very dark blue here and the sort of purples here, and that's made the whole thing come together. And it's just adding difference, really, adding something contrasting to what's already there. What has the piece not got? And a lot of this is just kind of staring at the piece for a little while to figure that out. And I really recommend putting things away, and this is what I do. I put things away when they're half done, ready for the summer, and you come back and you see them with really fresh eyes, and actually you really know what something needs. And often it is just one or two things. So with this piece, I think pretty much I just added this lovely piece of bright orange collage. It was a lovely texture anyway. So this is tissue paper that's already been printed on with oil paint, and sort of with some marks on already. The colour was perfect. Put that in, a real splash, it's strong, and then added a little bit of drawn line work here as well. I don't know if you can see that. And again in the sky as well, this kind of energetic pencil, that was just pencil line. So that is all that took really to just bring the whole thing together. And I could see this quite obviously. It'd been in a drawer for quite a long time. I could see it quite much more obviously when I took it out again. This one is a piece that's actually been cropped down. So this was much bigger. It was probably at least twice the size, this. I didn't like any of the bottom area at all. It was just driving me mad. So I kind of went quite extreme. I cropped the whole thing down to this size, this format. And I also added, what did I add? I added this white section of collage here. So this is quite subtle, but it has got some marks on it. So just adding a bit more texture, lightening that whole half of the piece. And then I added this very dark monoprint. Again, this was what I call painterly printing, which is where you don't roll any ink out or paint out. You just put it out on your surface, slap your paper down and pick up whatever's there, a bit like a painted mark. So I like that. It just darkens the whole, kind of gives much more contrast to the whole piece. And then I just liked this. I had this lovely piece of kind of aqua green collage, and I just loved putting that in there. And that is making the red, picking up on the red. So the red is the complementary colour to the green, and even though they're quite far apart, these are singing. They're talking to each other. They're making each other better. So this one is from the series of a few of the previous ones I've showed you. There was originally photopolymer print behind this. Very subtle photopolymer etching. It's almost all been covered up now. So what has been added is this dark mark here. It's actually collaged in. So some tissue paper collaged in. And again, that contrast, tonal contrast, that's really what this was lacking. And then I added this piece of collage here as well. Now this was, I think this was a ghost print. It was something that came off the back of doing something else. Had these beautiful soft marks that just suggested rain. So that was just perfect to put on there, suggesting rain, and that lovely yellow as well over the top. So I keep everything. I keep everything I make even, you know, the ghost prints, the things that I'm not sure about, nice little marks and textures, I keep them, and I have a massive pile of collage papers, and one day I'll show you those. So I can pick and choose what I need. And then the last thing I did was this orange line, and again to complement the blues and the greens and really make them sing out and talk to each other. And it's a lovely bright orange, that, so yeah, so that's what I did on that one. Now going a bit larger here, and it's a bit difficult for the camera to see, but this doesn't look anything like what it started out as. It was originally a carborundum print and dry point etching all on one paper. Behind this is a big carborundum marker, quite a dark mark, and there's lots of orange on here originally. Now I could not make it work, I just couldn't make it work. So what I actually ended up doing was I used a lot of collage. So I've covered up the whole of the sky with this sort of very soft yellowy and a bit of light purple, and that went all the way down to here, so covering up quite a lot of this piece. I added the yellow and the blue, and then the big change was then putting in this big piece of dark collage. And again, this is on tissue paper that's been oil paint has been monoprinted onto this to get these lovely marks. I've got some roller marks here as well, but it really suggests rain moving over and a sort of storm. And then the very last thing I did was add these dark marks here, just because this bottom area, nothing much was happening with this bottom area, so I wasn't quite sure, and I just wanted these lovely velvety, kind of quite rough, scratchy monoprint marks. So I think that's worked really well for that piece. And then last but not least, this one here, and some of you might have seen the reel I had on Instagram where I just added this yellow area here, these yellow marks. What a difference it makes, just being quite free, energetic, and also the brightness of the colour as well. This was a very muted pastel piece, and I added this quite dark piece of collage here, which really helped. I got some definite lines, some very dark, and then adding this yellow, I actually added some yellow to the land here, and then I also added this quite quick, rough, energetic mark, and that was pushing onto the back of the paper to make that mark with this very bright yellow, and that is talking to the purple in the sky. And there's a very soft purple here, and there's a darker purple here, and they're talking to each other, they're making each other better. So that went from being really quite a dull pastel piece to this, which I think is a finished piece, and I really like it. So all these pieces are going to be shown at both South Bristol Arts Trail, where you can come and visit my house and my studio, and that's this weekend, 14th and 15th of September, and also at Jamaica Street Studios, which is Open Studios, which is the weekend after, and it's where I have my other studio. So I have to get them ready pretty quick, so I'm just going to show you how I mount these up to look good for the browser, and in a quick and easy way. So the key to mounting up the work is tape, actually. So I get this PH7 to 70 tape from my local framers. It's archival. It's not going to go yellow or horribly sticky on the back of your artwork. It feels a bit like double-sided tape, but it's not. It's kind of shiny on one side. And then if I'm doing tissue paper or see-through paper, I use this hinging tissue by Linico, and that is basically a bit like tissue paper, sticky tissue paper really. It's really, really thin, and it doesn't show when you put it on the back of artwork. So today I'm going to use the PH7 one, because this piece is on etching paper, so I don't need to worry about the transparency of it. And I'm just going to cut two little pieces and make a little T. So one sticky side is facing up and one sticky side is facing down. Try to minimize the amount of stickiness that is actually on the back of the artwork, but you know there will be some. And this is the way I float mount. So I'm float mounting it, and I often do this when I've cropped right down to the edges of the actual image as well, because you can do that and it looks great, I think. So I'm just pressing that down now, and that should stick. And that will be ready to wrap up
and put in the browser.
So I hope that was useful and inspiring. If you like this video, do consider subscribing and so you don't miss any. And you can also buy artwork, buy self-paced video courses all about hand printing, or join my email list for monthly inspiration, all at my website ruthounder.co.uk or from the links in the description. Thanks for watching.